Here's our story, guys, about our humpback whale named Humphrey. Humphrey the Lost Whale, a true story. A story told by Wendy Tokuda and Richard Hall, and illustrations by Hanako Wakiyama. And then when we open up, I want to show you a map, boys and girls. Here's the Pacific Ocean where Humphrey is swimming out. And sometimes the humpback whales would come into San Francisco Bay by going under the Golden Gate Bridge. And then what they're supposed to do, instinct tells them to go back out to the ocean to get food and bring their calves if they have any along with them. But Humphrey, for some reason, got turned around, and as you can see, he got caught in the Bay Bridge, and then another bridge here he actually had to get through, and he went on his way up the river where the water turned into fresh water, and this bridge, even way up here, is where he gets stuck, and he almost dies. And so I would love to tell you the tale of how Humphrey the whale was able to get all the way back to the bay and then eventually back out to the ocean. And this is a true story. Okay, here we go. Humphrey the Lost Whale. Our story begins on a sunny day far out to sea. A pod of humpback whales was traveling south together for the winter. Humpback whales are magnificent creatures that sing beautiful songs under the water. In the whole world, there are very few of them, so each one is quite special, and they are intelligent. Every winter, they travel south, and every summer, they head north, and they always know the way. Now, here is the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, and there's Humphrey going in. But even whales can make mistakes. One whale named Humphrey made a big one. He turned away from his friends and wandered under the Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco Bay. Oh, everyone was kind of surprised to see Humphrey in the bay. People don't get to see humpback whales that often, to see the boats and the city in the background. Humphrey was a spectacular sight. He was as long as a city bus and as big as 7 elephants put together. He would come up to breathe, appearing as if by magic, and people would stop whatever they were doing to watch him. Then Humphrey did something that no whale had ever done before. Instead of swimming back to sea, he went the wrong way up the Sacramento River. Oh no, and remember the map I was showing you? There he's going up the river. The big river became smaller and smaller as he traveled upstream. He was looking for the ocean, but it was clear Humphrey was lost. Hundreds of people came to see Humphrey in the river. They would stare out at the water, waiting for him to come up for air. Then with a big whoosh, his giant back would appear, and someone would shout, "There he is!" He was such an amazing sight. But something was wrong. Whales are supposed to be in the salt water in the ocean, not in the fresh water of the rivers. A whale would die if it stayed in fresh water too long. Humphrey was in trouble. Look at all those people looking at him going, "Oh no, that whale is not making a good decision." Everyone knew that Humphrey had to be turned around toward the ocean, but no one knew how hard that would be. After all, something like this had never happened before. The further Humphrey went, the more worried everyone became. They wondered whether he was getting anything to eat, whether he was getting sick, or whether he would beach himself in the river. One day, Humphrey squeezed under a tiny bridge. It was so small no one could understand how he did it. Now he was really in trouble. He was trapped. Oh no, he's continuing up that river, my friends. The river beyond the bridge was very shallow and narrow. It was so small Humphrey could hardly turn around. There he was, a whale stuck in the tiny stream right in the middle of a farm field. It was hard to believe. Something had to be done to get him out of there fast. Humphrey looked sick. The scientist knew he would die if he didn't get out to the ocean. Time was running out. Doesn't look very happy, does it, my friend? The people trying to save Humphrey would have to move fast. The scientists, the Coast Guard officers, and many others got to work out a plan to save him. They decided to bang together long pipes underwater and scare him back down the river and out towards the ocean. At the same time, they would play recordings of other whales, of other humpback whales. And you see the sound waves, and maybe Humphrey would hear those and get hungry and lonely, and he would start swimming towards the sound and follow that boat out to the ocean. Maybe that would work. It did work. Humphrey turned around and started swimming back down the river. Everyone was relieved, but danger wasn't over. When Humphrey arrived at that little bridge, do you guys remember the bridge that he was able to get through? He stopped. Now he was afraid to go under it. He couldn't find a space big enough to go through it. Oh no. People kept banging the pipes, but Humphrey started to get super frustrated. What would he do? As the pipes kept clanging, Humphrey became angry and he rolled from side to side and thrashed his great tail. People stopped banging the pipes because they could see how frustrated he was. But Humphrey's friends wouldn't give up. They knew they had to get him past that bridge. If they didn't, he would die in the river. The people trying to save him decided to make a space under the bridge. So they brought in a huge crane and a shovel, and they worked all night long to clear the way under the bridge. So they made kind of like a big ditch, my friends, so Humphrey could get through. Would Humphrey notice the difference? The next day, the people began banging the pipes together. Clang, clang, the boats moved closer to Humphrey to urge him on toward the bridge. This was his last chance. Everyone watched nervously. Humphrey bravely approached the bridge, but as he tried to swim under it, his head became lodged between the pilings. He frantically bobbed his head up and down and thrashed his tail to free himself. It was a terrible moment. The people trying to save Humphrey thought it might be the end. Humphrey was stuck. Suddenly, Humphrey lifted one fin way out of the water, almost touching the bridge. As he twisted his body, he broke free from the pilings and swam through to the other side. He turned sideways, my friends. I'm telling you, these whales are so intelligent. There was a shout from the banks of the river, then another and another, until everyone was cheering. Hooray for Humphrey, they shouted. He made it. Humphrey the whale, the humpback whale, was finally on his way home. Yay, guys. Everyone clapped for Humphrey. A whole flotilla of boats and the clanging of pipes behind him helped Humphrey find his way down the river. Finally, Humphrey arrived at San Francisco Bay. Okay, now we just got to go into the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, right? Humphrey spent one whole day in the bay swimming. Look it, he's breaching. You remember what breaching is? And spy hopping when they just pop their head up. They oohed and they awed when he leaped in the air and belly flopped back into the water. Humphrey seemed to be saying goodbye and thank you to all of his friends who had helped save his life. The people who had helped Humphrey also felt grateful. Humphrey had taught them a lot about humpback whales. He had also become a good friend. Many times during his ordeal, Humphrey could have simply flicked his tail and overturned boats, carrying the people who were trying to help him. But he never did. He seemed to understand that they were his friends and they were trying to help him. finally, in the late afternoon fog, Humphrey swam under the Golden Gate Bridge and back out to sea. Humphrey the whale had made it. He was finally home. And boy, my boys and girls, those humpback whales can migrate clear up to the Arctic, and they can go as far south as Hawaii. They swim in cold water and warm water, and they are our baleen whales that also make beautiful, beautiful musical sounds when they talk to each other. And I've got some recordings of that, so I'll make sure to have you listen to those on Thursday. And boys and girls, this was a true story, so there are some photographs of Humphrey. Yeah, this is, let's see, it almost looks like he's beached right here, but this is when he's going so far up the river where there isn't very much water, and then when he finally gets back out to sea and there's all the people that helped him. Isn't that a great story? Thank you, guys. So we have, make sure, I think you guys have already done French, so hopefully this is the end of your school day. Get some exercise outside, and tomorrow is Wednesday, and Wednesday is math and music with Teacher Melissa and Teacher Christy, and Thursday I'll be back, and Friday will be Teacher Melissa and Teacher Christy, Teacher Ode. So we have got a fun week, guys. We're going to continue more with whales. I've got a story about an orca whale too for you, and you're going to draw some whales outside. You'll need a measuring tape and your sidewalk chalk. And also, guys, I have a project for you. I cut out a square piece of paper, a blue one for you, and it's even on all sides in measurement. Squares are equal sides, not rectangles. Rectangles are long square. Okay, two squares together can make a rectangle, all right? Not even sides. So there are three kinds of whales you can make. We have the first one, an origami whale, and it gives you directions on how to fold it. And then there's a way to make a strip using a strip of paper where you can cut the paper, or you can cut your own paper for that one. And that's another kind of whale. Or you can do a fold and cut. Now this one you will probably need to have a rectangle, and you can make a rectangle by, let me find my scissors. Well, I'll just fold this in half. There we go. I have my rectangle. Okay, and then you fold it over one more time like this, and then you can have someone help you cut it so it can be a whale. Do you see how that's going to be a whale for your final product? So three different kinds of whales, and you can start first with the origami, which is a Japanese way of folding paper into different kinds of beautiful creations, from flowers and birds to animals. Origami, 4 syllables. Alrighty, have fun with that. I would like to see those. Take some pictures. Alrighty, guys, thank you. I had a whale of a time with you, and I'll see my beautiful friends on Thursday.